The bids are in, the gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid podcast, dedicated to all things wine value, wine auction, wine retail, and just wine. My name is Jeff McGurn. I'm on the WineBid marketing team. With me, as always, is Paul, the guardian of Grenache Walker. That's right, our wine expert. And welcome to the pod.
Guardian of Grenache. Is that what it was today?
Guardian of Grenache. That's right.
Okay.
It's in danger, and somebody has to protect it. And luckily, we've got Paul Walker.
I do like Grenache, so that's a good one.
You do like Grenache. I know you hate Gamay. That's why you're not the guardian of Gamay. Yeah, you always tell me how much you don't like Cru Beaujolais.
No, I don't ever tell you that. I don't know where you're getting that from, but
anyway. You know where I'm getting it from, or you don't know?
I don't know where you're getting that from. That's from
I said I like Cru Beaujolais, and you rolled your eyes, and you're like, of course you like Cru Beaujolais.
Well, it's because it was something people that fancied themselves as hip said a few years ago. So I guess it's
or it's just delicious, or it's actually good. Like
they've always been good. That's the thing. They were good, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So
it can't possibly be that Jeff likes Cru Beaujolais, because Cru Beaujolais is actually really, really good wine.
Cru what?
Cru Beaujolais.
What is it?
Beaujolais.
Sounds like you're saying the Halloween version of the the region. Beaujolais. It's Beaujolais.
Beaujolais.
Yeah, there you go.
How about it's however I pronounce? I thought it was Beaujolais. Beaujolais.
No, Beau, Beau is Beau, like Beau.
You know what? I want to get a
Bourgeois, all those wines that you like. Bourgeois.
I want to get a second opinion on that. I think it's very much a regional dialect on how you pronounce Beaujolais.
Okay.
Look, but today we're going to be talking about some of the wines that have come into auction this week. Some of the new wines that come into auction this week from France. There's some really, really cool stuff.
I would like to also clarify this because I think it's important. These are all wines that are live and available to bid. And this is the auction that ends on Sunday, the 17th at 7 p.m. Pacific. So just want to clarify that.
Yes.
Sunday, March 17th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, be very careful. Somebody could be listening to this podcast on like June 16th and be like, oh, and then they're like, where are all these wines they're talking about? No, March 17th, 2024. Just in case you're listening to this.
Right. And they're all currently available for bid. They're all live on the site.
Exactly.
Just like to say coming into auction, but no, they are actually
live. Oh my God. He like nitpicks. Like if
semantics is important, as is pronunciation. So
like Paul insists not only that like we get perfect pronunciation and semantics, but that also you list. Well, like we discuss producers, like as you can drive to them, like you'd be like, oh, you would never pass up Aubryon on your way to Chateau Margaux. So you should talk about Margaux first.
Yes, say that.
I don't know. You're very particular about this stuff. Look,
I take it very seriously.
This is what that's what happens when you're a wine expert. I'm just a casual wine drinker. I'm a casual wine drinker.
Not an expert, but. Anyway, are we going to start with Bordeaux as you love to do, or are we going to start with something else in France?
We're going to start with Bordeaux. You know why? Because there's a region in France where we got just a ton of really cool stuff. I want to end there. Let's start with Bordeaux because I think Bordeaux is going to go pretty fast, right? So end on the high note. So yeah, look, which is not to say there weren't some really cool things coming, that have come into auction this week from Bordeaux. I thought the 99 Cheval Blanc was really cool for $475. I just didn't think $475 was a terrible deal for 99 Cheval Blanc, 25 years of age on it. I think that's a neat bottle. One that I thought was really cool. We see this occasionally trickle in. I feel like it seems to be coming up in price. These bottles of Aigrec. Right, we've got 3 bottles of a 15 Aigrec, $235. Right, so you look at like 2022. This Aigrec was going for $160. Right now, it hammered in January for $265. After actually the last time it hammered was the end of 2022, December 2022 for $160. So these bottles of Aigrec seem to be like climbing up, which is kind of interesting because I feel like Decam in general hasn't like shot up in price like some other stuff, right? It's been, it's not cheap. It's also hasn't like become, oppressively expensive either. But Aigrec seems to be moving up pretty steadily.
Yeah, and it's expensive for dry white. I think for a little bit more, depending on the vintage, of course, you can get their, their flagship wine, if you will. But no, it's true. It's expensive. It lasts a long time too, though. That's the thing. It's a, maybe not as long as a sweet wine, but it does last a long time. If it's stored properly, it'll last for years.
I know you're not the biggest Pontet Canet fan. I thought it was interesting. We got this 2016 Pontet Canet for 135. Not far off from what you're seeing Pontet Canet go for on Premiere, right? I thought that was super interesting. 98 Palmer for 225. That doesn't strike me as a bad deal either, nor this 16 Rosanne Segla for 90.
Yeah.
Or this '05 Les Papes d'Excellence for $20. That's right. I'm recommending a $20 wine. I thought that one was really, I mean, it's an '05. It's a great year in Bordeaux, right? And then actually another one that's got some, and then I'll put my Bordeaux tirade here. The 2020 Les Carmes Aubryon.
Les Carmes,
I'm doing the phonetic.
Les Carmes. You could just say Les Carmes, and that would be helpful, I think, for people to find it.
LCHB. This one, we've got one bid taking it from 115 to 125. 115 was a great price. 115 was the on Premiere price.
The 2020.
Yeah, the 2020.
Yeah.
And that stuff, I mean, I haven't had it. I do have some. But I'm guessing that stuff's going to be pretty darn tasty in a few years. What did I miss in Bordeaux?
I only had a couple picks this week. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff from other parts of the country, but there's a nice little batch of 89 Aubryon. There's 5 bottles. It's just legendary wine. Prices come down a little bit on it too. I think it was over 2,000 not too long ago. But anyway, 1710 for a 5-bottle lot. 5, I should say, 1710 each. Individuals, 5 bottles in that lot. 16 La Vieille Cure. There's a bottle of that. Speaking of, I think, very, reasonable Bordeaux that I've had. I don't know if you've had this Pop L'Excellence wine, but I have had La Vieille Cure, and $30 for the 16. I didn't think it was bad at all. Mm-hmm. And Domaine de Chevalier half bottles in at 50 for the 2020. It's a pretty sought after red vintage. Generally the whites more than the red for Domaine de Chevalier, but I did see the 2020 half bottles for 50. And I think it's always kind of interesting to find half bottles of Bordeaux from great vintages. You can try them younger, you can see if you like it. And if you do, then you can buy 750s to store for long-term. So those are always interesting to me. And then second label, Esprit de l'Église was in for 2000, year 2000. It's got a couple bids.
Like, for $2,000?
No, excuse me, the year 2000. Vintage 2000, I'm sorry. 2000 Esprit de l'Église.
By the way, do you know why they don't make as many half bottles anymore as they used to? Like why half bottles used to be way more popular?
I don't know. It's probably a cost thing, but I have no idea.
This is what I read. I have not validated this, but as a wine expert, you might be able to talk to some of your other wine expert friends or historians. What my understanding was, it used to be against the law, particularly in the United States, to pour bottles of wine by the glass, and so you could only buy it by the bottle at like a restaurant. And so a lot of so that's why a lot more half bottles were produced. And then once laws changed such that people could pour wine by the glass at restaurants, or restaurants could pour wine by the glass at restaurants, there was really no longer a need to have the half bottles.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true, but that was the explanation that I read. And I was like, that is fascinating. All it takes is like some changing of a liquor law, and you completely nearly eliminate an entire class of wine bottle size. Let's run over to Burgundy, right?
Sure.
Will you be bidding on this Romanée-Conti Montrachet 3-bottle lot from 01?
Yeah, that's a serious one right there.
$22,800.
You don't see 3 packs of Montrachet that often. We do see the white wine obviously fairly often, but not in 3-pack original wood. So that's a special lot for sure.
I'm just super interested to see where this ends up hammering, right? Like, There has been a lot of movement at the very top end of the market. We talk about this all the time. I'm curious to see if we're going to see someone swoop in and grab this because, to your point, the Montrachet itself isn't like, I mean, it's rare, but we do see it come into auction, right? It's not like once every 10 years thing, like it comes to auction, fairly regularly. But 3-packs in OWC, that is not common. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to see if somebody's going to swoop in and pick this up. I'm curious to see if we're going to see a market correction on this and have this come down a little bit, but it's definitely one to watch. The only two other things that I was looking at was '07 Claude de Tart for 425. We got the '04 for 425 as well. And then I thought that was interesting. And there's some couple wines from the Auspices de Beaune, which we have coming
I
up.
didn't see those.
Yeah, well, 3 of them. I always think those are really interesting. What do you got on your Berg list?
Yeah, no, some great wines this week that stood out to me. I saw there's a bottle of Griveau, Albert Griveau Bourgogne Blanc '08 in really nice condition for $20.
Yep.
So, anyone looking for mature white Burgundy that's been stored properly, it's not, from a Premier Cru or Grand Cru source, but it looks delicious and it's probably quite tasty. There's a really nice trio of Cécile Tremblay wines, very rare, very expensive, but very, very serious stuff. 19, 17, and 18. There's a Chapelle Chamartin 18. Let's see, some Gros Frère Von Romane half bottle '05 at $75. I didn't think it was terrible for something from a great vintage, and you can try something of a quality of that level for under $100 is getting harder and harder to find these days. Some Hubert Lamy again this week, another Saint-Aubin over $100, which seems to be the trend these days. But the Hubert Lamy Saint-Aubin wines are serious track record there. One of the rare declassified Domaine Leroy wines is in this week, the '04 Chameau Musigny, which is all the vineyards, the Premier and Grand Cru vineyards were actually declassified in this particular vintage, and not declassified like sort of by any governing body, but by the winemaker, La Lubise. She put the Grand Crus and the Premier Crus, blended them into village label bottles. So that explains the price for these '04s, but they are quite rare. They come up every so often and then they're quite good. I haven't had them in years, but there's Von Romane and Chameau Musigny, but this week anyway, there's the '04 Chameau Musigny. There's some Tortoiseau Chamartin. There's some Dominique Laurent wines from 1999, which we don't see very often. Producer you don't see anymore really that often for whatever reason. But anyway, there's Malcasor and Maurice Antony Clos Sorbet. There's some Evening Land Burgundies in this week, which are always kind of interesting.
I saw those.
Yeah. I've had them in prior years. I don't remember having the 11s. I know it's a tricky vintage for red wine in Burgundy, but probably quite good. Some great consulting, winemakers and individuals involved there. So, and they're not terribly expensive. 99 Favely Clos Vougeot stuck out. There's also an '05 Favely Mercury Clos Miglon half bottle for $31. So again, great vintage red Burgundy for not a terrible price. There's a really nice little batch of Jadot Grand Crus, Betards, Clos de Bez, and Corton Charlemagne. And that pretty much rounds out my picks for Burgundy this week.
Let's jump over to Champagne. That's one of your favorite regions. You love your sparkling wine.
I do.
1975 Dom Perignon Enoteque Commande Spéciale, which is 1560. And the last time we sold this, we sold in 2019 for $950. So I'm really curious to see where this one ends up.
This is talking about a late disgorgement. This was disgorged in 2007. So
it looks beautiful. The bottle looks in beautiful condition.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't released until all that long ago. So it's one of these wines that obviously the house has been holding on to for quite a long time.
Right. And we also have '02, '98, and '06 Dom in auction as well. I was looking at this multi-vintage Cedric Bouchard Roses de June, VVR20 for 185. I thought that one looked really interesting. The 71 Dutz Cuvée William Dutz
Mm-hmm.
for 600. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
A little bit
Serious wine.
with some serious age too.
Yeah, there's some really great champagne picks this week for sure. And yeah, you mentioned the Cedric Bouchard wines. I think the more recent releases, of which this is one, it's got the newer label on it. They're kind of coated where, of course, now I can't remember. Again, I'm not an expert, but they have, abbreviations and disgorgement dates and everything's kind of described on the label because I think, people have been wanting to know what the base vintage is, or, at least the disgorgement date, or what the varieties are, all that kind of thing. But anyway, they tend to be better deals than the stuff we were talking about 08s that hammered for over $400 last week in our auction recap. And so it's interesting to find the younger releases. But yeah, I was going to say there's a great little lineup of champagne. There's this Omri Beaufort de Quad Mel 2, which I've never heard of before. There's some Savard, the Ephemer.
Yeah.
1-1. Not expensive.
$65.
Yeah, and the Savard ones are super, super good. And they're not getting pushed up like crazy, like Bouchard and Ulysse Coin and some of the other ones.
I feel like this week there's a ton of great like grower champagnes at really reasonable prices, like the 15 La Rogier Grand Cru Heroin for 65.
I don't know that wine.
Well, I mean, look, I think actually this week, if you...
La Rogerie, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I said.
La Rogerie Grand Cru. Yeah, it's a young disgorgement too. It's disgorged on June 2023. So this was released just recently. I don't know this one at all.
I was checking out, so there were a bunch of grower champagnes that I was checking out this week just because, look, there's so many different champagne houses in Champagne, right? There's just a ton of these. It's nearly probably be impossible to really know them all very well, right? But if you're interested in grower champagnes, I think this is a fantastic week to jump in and grab a few at a really reasonable price, $65.
Sure.
That's crazy for champagne. I mean, you're gonna pay more for that. You're gonna pay more than that for a lot of the big champagne houses, right?
Yeah.
So
no, the interesting thing is I was looking at this La Rogerie, the one you mentioned, just for fun, and I noticed it says Famille Petit Boxler, and Boxler, I was like, wait, that's an Alsace producer. Well, apparently they own vineyards in both places, which is pretty cool. And
it's a free country, Paul. They can own vineyards wherever they want. Okay. Don't try and keep the Boxlers down.
Anyway, yeah, no, something new that I'd never heard of before. Wait, I just wanted to mention a couple more things before we move on. Not a grower champagne, but also very good. There's 88 Cru again this week. There's a mag of Pierre Peters, classic, sort of standard. It's the Reserve Grand Cru mag. And there's Rupert Lavoie Cuvée 11, 12, 13. Again, sort of an interesting lineup at all price ranges this week. So those are the other two I wanted to mention.
All right. I'm going to really quickly jump through some of the other regions and just say that probably the most interesting thing would be in Villeroy. We've got some really cool Didier Dagenau, the Polyfumé Cuvée Selects.
Those 2000s. Those are back in when Didier was still around, and the colors on them look phenomenal. They look really, really good.
Especially the selects, the fill level is fantastic.
They've been stored really well. The Silex and Enchaillou both, which Silex I think probably had the stuffing to go the distance longer than the Chaillou because it was a younger drinking wine in my memory. But I'm sure, they're both really, really, really interesting to try now.
Oh, they both have bids on them. I thought.
Yeah, not surprised.
I thought it was interesting, this 18 mag of Edmond Vaton.
I know. Yeah, these Vaton wines, I think it's another producer that just exploded like in the last 10 years. I think they started going way up in price. I want to say about probably like 7, 8, 9 years ago, and they never really came back to earth. But they have dropped a little bit. I mean, still $680 for for Sancerre, Magnum is not cheap, but yeah, Vaton wines, if you haven't had them before, they're very good. I was always more impressed actually with the white wines. The red wines are interesting, but for the money, I think the whites are good.
Did you see this 1996 Bonnie Doon Madrian Heart of Darkness? that was that was really it.
Bonnie
Bonnie
Doon
Doon's
for
like
Loire?
a U.S. a domestic producer, but they have this French wine from the southwest of France.
Really?
Yeah, and then the only other thing that I'll just mention in Alsace because I can't not mention Alsace.
Oh, you're bouncing all over the place. You went from Loire to Madiran.
See what I mean? You're like, oh, you have to go in geographical order.
I thought you were talking about Loire. There's another Loire wine, a couple more that I wanted to mention before we leave the region.
Yeah, don't mention
it. There's like, I think for the money, Pascal Cotat, like this.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to mention the Pascal Cotat.
Yeah, it stuff's great. It's way cheaper than Vaton. It's very, very good.
So good, Pascal Cotat.
You missed it. There's already bid on it. So
I did. Well, yeah. How do you know?
And then
you don't know me.
There's Carte de Chaume also. There's Baumard Carte de Chaume from 95 and a half bottle 97. Legendary sweet wine from the Loire. If you've never had it, it's really, really good. Anyway, half bottle of the 97 I think was terrible at $30. It's got a bid. It looks like 31 now, but the 95 has got a bid at 86 as well. So yeah, some great wines from Loire this week too.
I'll mention the only two wines from Alsace we had coming to auction this week, which were the 04 Lorenz Riesling Altenburg, de Bergheim, and then this one was interesting, the 1997 Maternay Heglin et Cesfils Tokay Pinot Gris Vendange Tardif. That was only 45. I know.
Who's going to be able to find that wine after that just unbelievably interesting pronunciation?
Look,
we might want to just spell it out because no one is going to be able to find that. It took me.
There's like 1997 Alsatian wine. Okay, done. Like all you need to know is the year. There's a million of them. All right.
It is a real mouthful, but yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know this producer at all. Matin Aiglin.
I haven't heard it either, but it's got got a lot of age, 27 years of age.
Well, it's a late harvest too, so it'll go the distance for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it actually looks like some pretty good condition. Both of them.
It says late harvest twice, so just so you know, there's a neck label that says late harvest, and then it's also on the bottom of the base label too. So just in case you were confused.
Yeah, as it turns out, I'm not blind, so I did see that. So let's.
You can't read French, but you can see the label.
So I think
it's all right. It's just too easy sometimes. Low hanging fruit, as it were.
So I don't think there's any other new wine in France for us to discuss.
You're blowing all the stuff from the Rhone.
Just kidding. Yeah, this week. Look, if you are a Rhone Ranger, if you're into the Rhone, like this week is the week for you. I mean, there's some crazy stuff. I'm just gonna list a few things, and I'm gonna let you go off and end us with just. I'm sure you've got a list of like 300 different Rhone wines, even though they're only like.
Well, no, I did want to mention really quickly that there were wines added late to auction, and this does happen. Not everything is live on Sunday night, so it is worth checking the auction after Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even when wines are added, because there were, I believe a substantial amount of some of these Rhone wines were actually added after Sunday. So, there's always stuff to look for throughout the week. But anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, just some crazy Rhone wines. A bunch of these 85 Gugal Côte Rôties, La Landon, La Moline, La Turque. Ranging from, all the way from $1,200 and like I think almost all of them have bids too, right? So you've got the La Landon, the 85 La Landon went from $970. It's already at $1,220. The 85 La Moline started at $1,255. It's already $1,355. The La Turque was at $1,030. It's $1,130. And then the other one that was really interesting, and this is the one where, my birthday is coming up, Paul. And I know you said you wanted to get me something very special. Well, a 98 Jean Louis Chave.
That's not your birth year. You're way older than that. So I'm not going to get
That's the year I was born. 1998, right? And
looking rough. You're looking rough for 98.
I think $4,100 is a small price to pay for somebody who makes you look good on this podcast week after week after week. with those lovely nicknames that I give you.
No, it looks like one of them's got a bid, right? One of
does.
the 98s already has a bid on it. So
All the ones I mentioned have bids, I believe.
Cuvée Catalan's historically, far more expensive than Chauve's Hermitage. So it's a very collectible wine. I'll just say that.
Here's the good news. There is a lot of the 98 Cuvée Catalan that doesn't have a bid yet. So you could get that one for me. I don't need you to get in some bidding competition. And then I'll just mention a couple of others and then you can, do your thing. 98 Domaine Les Clos du Calou Châteauneuf-du-Pape Reserve for 130. This 19 Domaine Gernard Chavin Châteauneuf-du-Pape has one bid. There are two of them. One of them has a bid. They're only $40. The 16 Orléans. I don't know why I even pick ones that are so difficult to pronounce. Catenière, Saint Joseph, La Sibérite mag for $61. And then what do you got? What am I missing here? I know there's so much. There's so much. It's crazy.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at your pronunciations, but I was just thinking if
you do.
If anyone, including any one of the robots that's listening, wanted to actually find these wines, it'd be a good idea to check the blog where we do list our picks for these. We also do send emails out about the wines that we've selected for the podcast. But that being said, no, there's what's interesting, I thought this week is there's these kind of outlier superstars like we mentioned, the Chauve Cuvée Catalan, very, very rare, very, very collectible, very, very expensive. But there's also a lot, I noticed there's a lot of Châteauneuf in this week that's from producers that are not as well known, don't get like the big scores. So there's some good deals there and things with, lots of time on them. There's some 98s and different things throughout the 90s and early 2000s. And you've got 07s, which are controversial. But anyway, there's some Cornas at all price ranges as well. There's some Johann Michel. There's some sweet wine from Chapoutier, Van de Paille. There's some Michael Bourg Cornas. There's some Hervé Suho wines, which are very, very hot, not in alcohol levels, but just in popularity. And it's just unbelievably rare Côte Rôtis from the mid 80s from Guigal, also just incredible. You mentioned those already, but they're worth mentioning a couple times. And then some Côte Rôtis from Duclos, another producer I'm not really very familiar with. So just a lot of eclectic stuff. Vieille Julien was the one Châteauneuf that I flagged because I love that producer. There's 13 Les Trois Sources in for $50. So a great lineup of Rhone wines this week for sure.
Now, before we wrap things up here, I just wanted to quickly mention that we are giving out WineBid wallet credits. That's right. You can get a WineBid wallet credit, and it's as simple as this. You listen to the podcast and you listen to Paul's nickname, his moniker by which he's known the world around. That's right. And
for whatever particular episode we're doing.
Whatever particular episode. This week's episode, his moniker is the Guardian of Grenache.
Yeah, and we just mentioned, a bunch of Châteauneuf, so I guess that might be a little bit appropriate.
It works out perfectly. So anyway, use that. I think you just check out with it, right? So you can use that as your checkout code, or you can use that as a code. That is the wallet credit code.
And wait, how do you spell it? Let's make sure, because we gotta confirm spelling here, Jeff.
GUARDINO
All right.
GRENACHE. And
Guardian of Grenache, like guardian, like as in parental guardian.
Yes, as in parental guardian. What other type of guardian is there? Is there another spelling of guardian with which you are familiar, Paul?
Yeah. There's a French spelling of guardian. So
well,
I don't want to confuse people.
Yeah, when we start doing this podcast in French, maybe we'll use that. Okay. And with that, this has been Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.